Hi, my name is Maya, and during this explanation, I am placing myself in Mimi's position to consider how I would respond to the suspected academic misconduct during Jack's test. I will draw on ethical frameworks and decision-making principles to guide my actions, ensuring that my response is fair, evidence-based, and aligned with professional and school expectations. So Jack is a grade 6 student at a primary school in a small rural town. His dad Trevor is the local AFL football coach and well known in town because he played 10 games for St Kilda Football Club in the early 2000s. Jack has shown promise as a footballer. He's tall for his age and quick on his feet. Trevor has entered Jack for a scholarship test at a private school where Jack would receive coaching and facilities that are not available locally. While Jack is strong in English and humanities, he does struggle with maths, and even with a private tutor, is not achieving the results needed to be competitive in a scholarship exam. Trevor has been putting pressure on Jack's teacher, Mimi, a recent graduate from the city, claiming that his son is bright and that he's not doing well in maths. It is due to the teacher's inexperience, and he's saying it's due to the teacher's inexperience. In a recent closed book maths test, Jack's result is significantly higher than his previous performance. Mimi notices concerns when marking other tests and identifies that Jack has made the same two errors as the students sat beside him. No other students in the class had made the same mistakes. So what are the ethical dilemmas in this scenario? So it involves several competing responsibilities that Mimi must carefully balance as a teacher. Firstly, there is concern regarding possible academic dishonesty. Jack's test results is significantly higher than his usual performance, and he has repeated the same errors as the students seated beside him. This raises questions about whether the assessment reflects his individual understanding. Secondly, there is pressure from Jack's father, who is confident in his son's abilities and has suggested that lower results in mathematics may be due to teachers' inexperience. This places Mimi in a challenging position, where professional integrity must be upheld while continuing to act in Jack's best interests. A further consideration is the duty to ensure fairness, consistency, and integrity in assessment. As a teacher, Mimi is responsible for ensuring all students are assessed honestly and equitably. Overlooking potential misconduct would disadvantage other students and undermine the credibility of assessment processes. At the same time, Jack's well-being must remain a priority. He may be experiencing pressure from his father, expectations, and the demands of a scholarship opportunity. The response should therefore focus on supporting his academic development and emotional well-being rather than immediately applying punitive measures. Ultimately, this ethical dilemma extends beyond possible cheating. It requires Mimi to maintain a professional integrity, manage parental expectations, ensure fairness for all learners, and safeguard students' well-being. This situation calls for a professional judgment and adherence to the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership, Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, which guide ethical and responsible practice. Some additional factors. In addition to the main ethical dilemma, several factors influence how Mimi should respond. The first factor is the lack of evidence. While there is suspicion that Jack may have engaged in academic misconduct due to the similarity of his answers with a nearby student, there is no direct proof. Acting without evidence could be unfair and may damage the trust in teacher and student relationship. Therefore, it is important that the situation is approached carefully with evidence gathered and school procedures followed before conclusions are made. This reflects professional responsibility to act ethically and make decisions based on evidence rather than assumptions. This is in line with the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, particularly Standard 7, which emphasises ethical conduct and professional integrity. The second factor is Mimi's status as a graduate teacher, which may impact her confidence and decision-making. As a beginning educator, understanding of all of school policies, assessment procedures, and academic misconduct processes are still developing. This may create uncertainty when dealing with complex situations requiring professional judgment. However, this also highlights the importance of seeking guidance from experienced colleagues or school leaderships rather than making decisions independently. Following procedures and engaging collaborations aligns with standards 6 and 7 of the APSTs, which emphasize professional learning, reflection, and ethical practice. So the four lenses of critical reflection. In this situation, Brookfield's four lenses provide a structured way to analyze decision making. Firstly, the self lens involves reflecting on assumptions, emotions, and biases. As a graduate teacher, Mimi may feel uncertain or influenced by parental pressure from Jack's father. It is important that this does not affect professional judgment. Secondly, the student lens focuses on Jack's experience. Consideration is needed for how he may be feeling, particularly if there is any pressure to perform for a scholarship. The response must protect students' well-being while maintaining academic integrity. Thirdly, the colleagues' lens highlight the importance of seeking advice from experienced teachers or school leadership. The decision should not be made in isolation, and the school policy should guide the process. Finally, the theory lens involves using ethical frameworks and professional standards to guide decision-making. This ensures fairness, evidence-based judgment, and procedural integrity. From the person's perspective, Mimi must reflect on her own judgment and ensure that she is not influenced by Trevor's pressure or his status in the community. Her decision should be based on evidence from Jack's assessment rather than assumptions about his ability from external expectations. From the professional's perspective, Mimi has responsibility to uphold academic integrity and act in line with the teaching profession's code of ethics. The similarities between Jack's answers and the student beside him raise concerns that must be taken seriously to ensure fairness for all students. From the public perspective, Mimi's decision impacts trust in the school, particularly in a small rural community where Trevor is well known. It is important that her response is fair and consistent so the community sees that all students are held to the same standard. From a policy perspective, Mimi must follow the school's academic misconduct policy and ensure any concerns are documented and reported through the correct channels rather than handled informally. From the procedures perspective, she should carefully review the test evidence, compare responses objectively, and escalate her concerns to senior staff for further investigation before making a final decision. Together, these five perspectives support a fair, transparent, and ethical response to the situation. The Australian Professional Standards for Teaching. So there is the first one, the APST 5.1, which assesses student learning, is central as it ensures judgment about students' achievement are fair, valid, and evidence-based, particularly in cases of suspected misconduct. APST 5.4 interprets student data, involves analyzing students' results and identifying patterns or inconsistencies. In this case, similarity in responses between students requires careful interpretation rather than assumption. APST 7.1 meet professional ethics and responsibilities. This reinforces the need to act with integrity, fairness, and professionalism while following appropriate procedures. APST 6.2 engage in professional learning and improve practice, highlights the importance of seeking guidance from colleagues and policies to ensure appropriate and ethical handling of this situation. Next, we have the Victorian Teaching Professions Code of Conduct. The ones that apply to this scenario. Principle 1.3. Teachers provide opportunities for all learners to learn, ensures fairness and equity in assessment decisions based on evidence rather than assumptions. Principle 1.6. Teachers maintain professional relationships with parents and carers, highlights the importance of managing concerns through appropriate, respectful, and formal communication channels. Principle 2.1. The personal conduct of a teacher affects the profession, reinforces the importance of ethical professional behavior as individual actions reflect on both personal credibility and the teaching profession as a whole. Overall, these principles support a fair, ethical, professionally responsible response. As ethics of justice approach focuses on fairness, consistency, and adherence to the rules and procedures. Decisions are guided by universal principles rather than the personal feelings or assumptions. Although there is suspicion of academic misconduct, a student cannot be treated as guilty without clear evidence. School procedures must be followed, decisions must remain consistent and evidence-based. This approach ensures objectivity, protects students' rights, and maintains fairness across all students, while upholding integrity of assessment practice. So to conclude all of this, teachers are responsible for making ethical and professional decisions, particularly in complex or uncertain situations. The use of APST standards and ethical frameworks supports fair, consistent, and responsible practices. In this case, careful attention to evidence, student well-being, and professional responsibilities is essential before taking action. Ethical teaching practice requires balancing fairness, care, and accountability while maintaining trust and integrity in the classroom. Thank you.